In order to get rid of my pestering, Tyrone faked his own death and went abroad, unaware of the truth. I chose to die for love. 3 years later, he returned to the country and finally remembered me. He said that he could overlook my absence and give me another chance. But he didn't know that I had been dead for 3 years. Tyrone has returned to the country. This incident has caused quite a stir in the entire Beijing social circle. After all, Tyrone had a very high-profile funeral back then. Could it be that he has come back to life now? So, the news of Tyrone's resurrection hit the front page headlines on the very same day. Meanwhile, I was wandering around in the human world. There are some advantages to being a ghost. No matter how thick the walls are, I can pass through them with ease, and I no longer have to spend money on food. The downside is that I have been floating around like this for 3 years. Other ghosts all say that I am a lonely wandering ghost. I really dislike this title. Other ghosts ask me to tell them where I come from and what my name was when I was alive, but I can't figure it out even if I rack my brains. I have forgotten everything about my life before death. I was shuttling through the streets and alleys as usual. Suddenly, a huge suction force hit me. Before I could even scream, everything in front of me turned white. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a magnificent private room. Brother Tyrone, you're finally back. You have no idea how much we've missed you these 3 years. A voice came from beside me, and I subconsciously looked up. I saw a man sitting on the sofa. Immediately, I, as a ghost, was stunned. He was so handsome. Why didn't I follow someone this handsome before? Tyrone waved his hand slightly, and his voice was as pleasant as the sound of a flowing brook. Here I am, back now. Everyone drank up the liquor in front of them. The atmosphere also relaxed. By the way, Brother Tyrone, since you came back to the country with such fanfare today, that little girl May must be calling you nonstop, right? Tyrone pulled the corners of his mouth slightly. What do you think? I think it must be like that. Tyrone raised his eyebrows, picked up his phone and started scrolling through it. May. I murmured this name softly. I just thought it was such a tacky name. Tyrone kept refreshing on several apps like text messages, WeChat, and Weibo. Before I, as a ghost, could figure out what was going on, Tyrone suddenly slammed his phone face down on the table. It's getting late. I'll go back first. Just put the drinks on my tab. Tyrone got up and walked out. I had to trot to keep up with him. Looking at Tyrone's side face, my intuition told me that he was angry. But what was he angry about? This wasn't something I, as a ghost, could understand. I followed Tyrone back home. As soon as he entered the house, he started taking off his clothes. I wanted to leave, but I found that I couldn't move at all. Even though I had passed through the walls, I would bounce back to Tyrone's side the next second. It was so strange. I watched Tyrone, who was only left with a pair of pants in front of me. Forget it, I'll try again at night. There are more important things now. Unexpectedly, not only was he good-looking, but his figure was also quite nice. Look at those collarbones, those abs, and that waist. Tyrone walked straight into the bathroom, and I followed him. I admit that I'm a lustful ghost. I'm a ghost, so I don't need to sleep. Tyrone was sleeping in bed, and I was sitting on the edge of his bed. I had tried to leave several times just now. Even though I was exhausted, I still didn't succeed. So I simply gave up. Where you fall, there you lie is my motto. I was just about to share the bed with this handsome guy Tyrone when I suddenly heard him murmuring in his sleep. May. I was puzzled. Why did he call out her name? Was it because of love? Soon, I found out it wasn't because of love, but hate. Because early in the morning, Tyrone called his assistant into the office. And he slammed the planning document onto the table viciously. Who made this plan? Call May over here. She hasn't made any progress in 3 years. The assistant shrank his neck and said in a low voice, Miss May left the company 3 years ago, so this plan wasn't made by her. Tyrone was a little surprised. She left? Who did she report to? Who approved it? Tyrone asked aggressively. You weren't here at that time, so she didn't report to you. The assistant paused and then said, I'll call the person who made this plan over here right now. Forget it, never mind. Tyrone waved his hand, letting the assistant leave. Watching Tyrone like this, I was even more certain that he hated May. After all, when he thought the plan was made by May, he almost wanted to skin her alive and eat her. When he found out it wasn't May, he didn't even want to see the person who made it. Tyrone started making phone calls. I didn't know who he was calling. Because he didn't put any on that person's name. The number you have dialed is powered off. Please try again later. The female voice of the machine kept repeating this sentence. Tyrone finally couldn't bear it anymore. He suddenly threw his phone against the wall. It shattered into pieces instantly. I subconsciously took 2 steps back. Although I'm a ghost, I was still a little scared in the face of his current momentum. Tyrone went to a bar at night. The reason was that his cousin said he wanted to throw a welcome party for him. Tyrone, however, was clearly having an ulterior motive. His cousin was already drunk, but he had only drunk 1 glass of wine. Cousin, lend me your phone. What's wrong, cousin? Did you lose your phone? Although his cousin said that, he still obediently handed the phone to Tyrone. Tyrone took it and immediately clicked on the dial button. Soon, he dialed the number on that phone. But before the person on the other end could answer, a voice suddenly rang out. Oh, isn't this Tyrone, who came back to life? The young Master Tyrone? Lucas looked at Tyrone with a smirk, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Everyone sensed that something was wrong, but no one dared to speak. Lucas took a step closer and immediately saw the phone that was on a call. The smile on the corners of his mouth froze instantly. Are you calling May? Tyrone neither denied nor admitted it. Instead, he said, it's none of your business. Lucas shrugged his shoulders. How is it none of my business? After all, I was her first man. Tyrone raised his eyelids and looked him in the eyes. What are you talking about? I said, I was her first man. The next second, Tyrone's fist landed on Lucas's face. Lucas was punched and fell to the ground, but his eyes were full of pity. Tyrone was stung by that look. If I hear such words again, I won't spare you just because of your brother. Tyrone got up and walked forward. Lucas, however, laughed behind him. Don't believe me? Then go and check her hotel check-in records. She checked into a room in a hotel under your name. Just check it and you'll know. Tyrone left the bar, ignoring what Lucas said. The cold moonlight cast its afterglow on the earth. I stood on his left side. The moonlight in between was like an insurmountable chasm. Tyrone let out a soft breath. He took a cigarette out of his pocket and put it in his mouth. His heaving chest finally returned to normal. To the Blue Shore community. Tyrone said this to the driver. After arriving at the destination, Tyrone stood still at the door. He first knocked on the door vigorously, but there was no movement inside. Then he started entering the password. 08150521, was he that much in love? He even set the door lock password to, I love you? The door opened with a click. All I could see was that the room was covered in dust, and the long unattended house smelled musty. Of course, that wasn't the most important thing. The important thing was that there was no furniture or ornaments in the room. Only a few load-bearing walls were left. Tyrone and I were stunned on the spot. For a moment, we thought we had entered a roughcast house. Tyrone didn't seem to believe it. He walked a few steps into the bedroom. Good heavens, there wasn't even a bed in there. Finally, Tyrone believed it. He called his assistant. President Tyrone. Call the police immediately. The house in the Blue Shore community has been robbed. What? The assistant was also shocked, but he quickly reacted. President Tyrone, the house there hasn't been robbed. Then why is there nothing in it? It's Miss May who sold everything. Tyrone was silent for a moment. But then he roared, where did she go? Find her and bring her back. It's okay that she left the company without my permission, but all the things in the house were bought by me for her. What right does she have to sell them? Find her and make her pay me back at the original price. I was really eye-opening about Tyrone's words. How stingy could he be? I gave Tyrone the middle finger. The news that Tyrone was looking for May somehow reached Lucas's ears. Early in the morning, Lucas came to Tyrone's office. He sat on the sofa casually as if he were in his own home. Lucas propped his chin up with his fingers. I heard you've been looking for May recently. What do you want her for? Could it be that May doesn't cling to you anymore, so you're starting to feel lonely? Lucas said this sarcastically. Tyrone's movement of putting down his pen froze. Of course not. She sold all my things. Can't I ask her to pay me back? Oh, really? If you have nothing to do, please leave. Otherwise, I'll call the security guards. Tyrone gave the order to leave without mercy. Why are you so angry? I'm here to help you. Lucas grabbed a piece of paper from the side and quickly wrote an address on the white paper. This is the address of May's hometown. You might as well go and have a look at her hometown. Tyrone glanced at the paper. Are you being this kind? Lucas shrugged his shoulders. Of course not. But I also want to see May again. Lucas's last words were very soft, so soft that neither Tyrone nor I could hear them clearly. After Lucas left, Tyrone threw the piece of paper into the trash can without a second thought. I looked at him in confusion. I was really puzzled by his action. He was the one who wanted to find May, but now that he knew the address, he threw it away like this. A man's heart is truly like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Tyrone drove himself home at night. He drove the car really fast, and the pendant in front of the car kept swinging back and forth. My eyes were drawn to it. It was actually a Buddhist pendant for ensuring safety. I didn't expect that Tyrone would believe in Buddhism. Tyrone suddenly slammed on the brakes and clenched the pendant tightly in his fingers. May, did you do it on purpose? Did you give me these things so that one day after you disappeared, I would see them and think of you? Tyrone almost spat out these words through gritted teeth. Then he turned the car around and drove back to the company. He ran up to the office as fast as he could. Fortunately, the trash in the trash can hadn't been emptied yet. Tyrone found that piece of paper. The address of May's hometown was clearly written on it. I thought Tyrone would send someone to look for May's whereabouts. To my surprise, Tyrone was going to go there in person. I followed him into the car, thinking that he was crazy. He was putting aside such a big company just to go and look for someone with such a tacky name. Tyrone drove the car really fast. Looking at his side face, I somehow felt that he was a bit excited and nervous. Tyrone didn't sleep all night, and by daybreak, the car had arrived at May's hometown. This was a remote and quiet village. The car had a difficult time driving on the dirt road, and Tyrone got out of the car impatiently. He asked the villagers which house was May's. When the villagers heard his question, they all had strange expressions. What do you want with her house? I'm looking for a person named May. As soon as Tyrone said this, the villager's face immediately changed. He approached Tyrone in a rather sleazy way. What do you want with her? Did you also hear about her story and want to find out more? Tyrone immediately sensed that something was wrong. He replied keenly, yes. So is it true? The villager mysteriously led Tyrone to May's old house. While walking, he said, it's only because you met me. Otherwise, no one else would have brought you here. Tyrone looked at the already dilapidated house and immediately knew that May wasn't there. She hadn't come back at all. So is that thing true? Tyrone asked naturally. Of course it's true. The villager paused. It caused quite a stir in the village back then. She was slept with by her stepfather when she was so young. Who wouldn't call him a beast when they heard about it? What? Tyrone and I said this in unison. It was a pity that they couldn't hear my voice. The villager was also a bit surprised. Isn't that what you were talking about? Tyrone directly took out a stack of cash from his pocket. Tell me the whole story, and this money will be yours. Then, Tyrone and I heard a tragic story. Her biological father left when she was 5 years old. He abandoned her and her mother. Then her mother started remarrying with her. This was already her mother's 5th husband. Her 5th husband was quite nice and treated both her and May very well. But as May grew up, the stepfather's feelings for May began to change. He would always stare at May with those lewd eyes. May thought she was just overthinking and didn't pay much attention. Until one afternoon when May was taking a bath, her stepfather walked straight in. He covered May's mouth tightly, and there were continuous vulgar insults. He said it was all May's fault for seducing him. Her mother was working outside all the time. The stepfather threatened her that if she dared to tell anyone, he would kill her and her mother. The kind stepfather disappeared at that moment and put on the guise of a devil. Perhaps the stepfather had never been a good person. All of this was just a disguise to get a wife. How tragic. After hearing this story, I murmured to myself. The villager had already left with the money. Only Tyrone and I were left looking at each other. Tyrone walked forward 2 steps expressionlessly, then took out a cigarette from his pocket. He smoked one cigarette after another in silence. After finishing a whole pack, he finally got back into the car. I couldn't read the emotions on his face. All I knew was that the car was going faster and faster. Even I, as a ghost, couldn't help but want to fasten my seatbelt. Perhaps because I was a ghost, I saw the car at the corner from a distance. However, Tyrone still didn't slow down, and he couldn't hear my shouts. The next second, with a bang, the 2 cars collided. I quickly flew out of the car. I saw that Tyrone was already covered in blood on his head, but he still insisted on reaching for his phone. After getting the phone, he started editing a text message. He only closed his eyes and passed out after sending it. I curiously leaned closer to the phone. There were only 2 words on it. Come back. Tyrone didn't die. He just had a concussion and a broken arm. However, the first thing he did when he woke up wasn't to call the doctor or deal with work. Instead, he called in the media reporters. And he asked them to publicize this matter widely, making it as tragic as possible. He said he wanted to make those who heard it sad and those who read it cry. After the reporters left, Tyrone stared at the empty ward in silence for a long time. Do you think May will see this report? He scared me so much. I turned around, but there was no one there. Was he talking to me? Then I heard him say again, she'll see it. She definitely will. She cares about me so much that she'll definitely come to see me. Goodness, he was being so abstract here. I don't know if Tyrone got some after effects from the accident. He always stayed awake in the middle of the night recently, so I lost the chance to share the bed with this handsome man. After Tyrone stopped sleeping, he always liked to stare out of the window in a daze. It was also on such a night. Tyrone suddenly started speaking. What was so special about this night? I floated over to look out of the window with him and found that it was just an ordinary night. Back then, because of the company's debt problems, I was blocked by those people and they were throwing things at me. She stood in front of me and took the blows for me. I clearly remember that someone threw a thermos flask and it hit her on the head. Blood was flowing down, but she still said she was okay. She really loves you. That's what I could feel. Tyrone suddenly let out a soft sigh. I know she loves me. Do you love her? I asked this question. But he couldn't hear me, so my question drifted in the air. No one could answer it anymore. Lucas came to see Tyrone in the hospital. He walked in with bare hands and a carefree smile on his face. What are you doing here? Tyrone frowned slightly, clearly not liking Lucas's arrival. How could I not come to see you after such a big thing happened to you? After all, you're May's sponsor. That's a great kindness. But that's May's business. What does it have to do with you? That's not right to say. When May left, she specifically told me to take good care of you if something happened to you. Tyrone immediately perked up when he heard this. He sat up halfway. Do you know where May is? Lucas shrugged his shoulders and changed the subject. You look fine to me. Your mental state seems quite good too. When I saw that report, I thought you were going to die. Why, were you happy to hear that I was going to die? Maybe May would be happy. Lucas said this seriously. What do you mean by that? Tyrone grabbed Lucas's arm tightly. Did you hide May? Otherwise, why hasn't she come to look for me? Is it possible that she doesn't want to come herself and doesn't want to see you again? Lucas looked at Tyrone's almost broken face. He suddenly burst out laughing. Tyrone, don't tell me you regret it. It was you who lied to May that you were dead back then. After a long while, Tyrone sneered, I won't regret it. On the day Tyrone was discharged from the hospital, his assistant brought him good news. He said that they had found the people to whom May had sold the furniture and ornaments. Tyrone immediately arranged a time to meet them. Rarely, Tyrone didn't wear a suit but put on casual clothes. He looked at himself in the mirror, first from the left and then from the right. "Don't I look bad? You look really handsome," I commented on him. I knew Tyrone wasn't talking to me. He had been talking to himself like this recently. The people who bought those items had already arrived. Tyrone pushed the door open and went out to shake hands with them and introduce himself. Tyrone got straight to the point. "Name your price. I'll buy them back." The people were a bit stunned for a moment, and then they named a price 5 times higher. Tyrone agreed without hesitation. "Okay, it's settled." The buyers were about to leave when Tyrone spoke again. "Did she say anything else when she sold these things?" The buyers stopped in their tracks. "Actually, she did. When I asked her why she was selling these things," the buyers paused, "she said that the person she loved had passed away and she had no more thoughts or hopes." Tyrone seemed to be hit hard and took 2 steps back. Finally, I saw that his eyes were filled with tiny tears. Tyrone moved to the Blue Shore community. Not only did he move there, but he also moved into the house where May used to live. He restored all the furnishings in the house exactly as he remembered them. After he had everything set up, he held a cup of coffee and looked at the moonlight as he said, "When May comes back, I'll make sure she has no place to go. Even if she begs me, I won't give her the house back." Looking at his smug look, I was left speechless for a moment. Only that the number of times he called May at night increased. From just one May to "May, remember this, I won't let you off easily this time." And then to "May, where are you? Why haven't you come back yet?" Looking at Tyrone murmuring in his sleep, I couldn't help but ask, "Do you love her or hate her?" Tyrone wouldn't answer me. Looking at the same moonlight, I couldn't help but start to wonder too. "May, where on earth are you?" On the 15th day since Tyrone had been living here, his father came to find him. As soon as he entered the door, he slapped Tyrone across the face. Even I, as a ghost, was stunned. Tyrone didn't even furrow his brows. He just calmly called out, "Dad." "Dad? What dad? Do you even remember that I'm your dad?" His father let out a heavy breath, and his irritable mood eased a bit. He looked Tyrone up and down in the house where he was living. "Don't tell me that you were in such a hurry to come back to the country just to live in this shabby house." His father spoke coldly, his gaze as sharp as if it could see through Tyrone's soul. "Of course not," Tyrone finally answered. "Then tell me what for." "The business abroad is so busy." "You came back just like that without listening to anyone's persuasion. What on earth are you trying to do?" "I have my own things to do." Tyrone paused. "Dad, don't force me. Your cousin is handling the business abroad quite well. You'd better behave yourself." After saying that, his father turned around and left. "If you don't want to inherit the family business, tell me as soon as possible. Aren't you ashamed to do all this for a woman?" That was the last thing he said. This last sentence really hit Tyrone where it hurt. As soon as his father left, he smashed the vase by the door, then he started smashing things like crazy. His eyes were bloodshot, and blood was constantly dripping from his fingers. He didn't stop until he was exhausted. He was half kneeling on the floor, and the smell of blood filled the whole room. His head hung lower and lower until it touched the floor completely. Soon, he let out a wail. I stood at a distance watching him. I thought he was wailing like a donkey. Tyrone went crazy again. He called his assistant into the office and asked him if he had any news about May. As soon as the assistant tremblingly said the word "no," the next second, Tyrone threw the documents at the assistant. "What do I keep you guys for? Can't you even find one person? She doesn't have much money. Where could she have gone? If you can't find her in the province, look outside the province. If you can't find her in the country, look abroad. It's so hard to find that I almost thought she was dead." The assistant carefully observed Tyrone's expression and spoke again, carefully. How about we ask Mr. Lucas? He was so desperately chasing after Miss May back then. Maybe he knows something?" Tyrone's gaze fell on the assistant. "Soon," he said, "you have a point." Tyrone went to look for Lucas several times, but always missed him. Tyrone suspected that Lucas was deliberately avoiding him. So on this day, Tyrone deliberately waited by Lucas's car. Finally, he saw Lucas this time. As soon as Lucas opened the car door, Tyrone took a quick step forward and closed the door. Lucas turned his head, and when he saw it was Tyrone, he smiled. "What? So eager to see me?" Tyrone didn't want to waste words with him. "Where's May?" Lucas stopped smiling. "Why should I tell you?" "Tell me quickly. Don't force me to get rough." Tyrone grabbed Lucas's collar tightly. Lucas still had a nonchalant look on his face. "Kill me, and you'll never know where May is." "So are you sure you want to do it?" Tyrone glared at Lucas viciously and finally started to let go of his hand. "Name your terms. I'll agree to anything." Lucas laughed again, and his laughter filled the garage. "Kneel down and beg me, and I'll tell you." Lucas paused. "Otherwise, forget it." Hatred filled Tyrone's eyes, and he gritted his teeth. "Don't go too far. I can still find May without you. It's just a matter of time." "Really? If I don't tell you, you'll never find May in your lifetime. Believe it or not." Lucas leaned close to Tyrone's ear and said softly. Tyrone looked at Lucas's confident look and felt very sad. Of course, during the confrontation, Tyrone didn't show any weakness. He threw out a "we'll see" and left. But as soon as he turned around, his whole mood was off. He was downcast and in pain. He smoked quite a few cigarettes in a row and then called his assistant. His voice was so weak, "Go to the hotel and check May's check-in records." He had to face this matter. "Okay." Tyrone seemed to have lost weight compared to when he returned to the country. His clothes looked even looser when the cold wind blew. The assistant was very efficient. Soon, he called Tyrone. "President Tyrone, Miss May did check into a room in our hotel once." "Was she the only one checking in?" "No. Who else?" "Mr. Lucas." Surprisingly, Tyrone didn't hang up the phone. Instead, he remained frozen in that position for a long, long time. It wasn't until the cigarette ash burned his fingertips that he came to his senses. "I see." To my great surprise, Tyrone was so calm. He slowly sat down on the chair and didn't move for a long time. The dark night gradually enveloped him. Finally, it swallowed him up completely. Tyrone resumed his playboy ways. Eating, drinking, and having fun every day was no big deal. He was so happy that he didn't even have time to rest. On this day, a group of rich young masters got together to drink. While drinking, someone suggested playing Truth or Dare. Everyone agreed. It would be great to know other people's embarrassing stories. After several rounds, Tyrone was the one who lost. Everyone started to cheer and asked Tyrone to tell the most exciting thing he had ever done. Tyrone leaned back on the sofa and smiled lightly. "Okay, I'll tell you the most interesting thing." "Great. Hurry up." "The first time I saw her was in an orphanage. So I pointed at her and said that I would pay for all her living expenses and tuition fees from then on. And from that day on, she regarded me as her savior and was hopelessly following in my footsteps. But do you know what? I pointed at her back then simply because among those kids, she looked the most hopeless and would most likely make it into my family's news, attract sponsorship for the company, and draw the attention of the common people. But she thought I was her savior. Ha ha ha." Tyrone was laughing and clapping his hands as he spoke. "Of course, that's not the funniest part. Do you know what the funniest part is?" "What?" Everyone leaned in curiously. "The funny thing is that I got tired of her pestering, tired of the boring gifts she gave me on every birthday, tired of her always smiling without asking for anything in return. It wouldn't be good for my and the company's image to tell her directly. So I came up with a good idea. I decided to fake my death, hold a grand funeral, and bury myself to make her completely give up and never be able to pester me again." And she really believed it. She cried so pitifully in the funeral parlor, and I was hiding outside the door at that time. Everyone was laughing so hard that they were falling over. I was also slapping my thigh and laughing. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that the ghost by the door wasn't laughing. "Why aren't you laughing?" I asked him accusingly. Is it funny? He asked me back. I was stunned. Isn't it funny? It's so funny. I followed Tyrone and left. But somehow, I didn't feel well. No matter how I floated, I just didn't feel comfortable. It seemed that something was about to burst out of my chest. By the time we got back to the Blue Shore community, that feeling reached its peak. My body started to ache, as if countless bugs were trying to tear me apart. I let out a scream, but no one could hear me. Tyrone was getting farther and farther away from me. No matter how I reached out, I couldn't touch him. Tyrone. I called out hoarsely. Tears rolled down to the ground. My body disintegrated the next second, emitting a yellow light. I remembered everything. It turned out that I was May. May was my name. I'm called May. I lived in a remote village. When I looked up, all I could see were those towering mountains. I often fantasized about the world behind the mountains. I was quite optimistic and active when I was a child. It was because my mother told me that optimistic and active people are more likely to be liked by others. So I never said anything discouraging. Even though my mother married several men with me, I still called them Dad. Until the last one, he made it impossible for me to be optimistic and active anymore. That night, I still don't want to recall it even now. I wished I could bump myself into amnesia so that I wouldn't have to face it. Later, I finally had the courage to walk into the police station and expose their crimes. That was also the first time I convinced myself to believe the fact that my mother didn't love me. I told my mother that he had raped me. My mother said that it was impossible and that if anything happened, it must have been me who seduced him first. It took a lot of courage to believe this. It took me a long time. After that incident, I became an orphan. No one was willing to adopt me. Everyone avoided me. Finally, I was adopted by an orphanage. I lived in a daze there. Everything was like a dream. Many times, I felt that I wasn't really living in this world. Until one morning, a young boy came to the orphanage. He wasn't that old, but he was wearing an elaborate suit and his hair was neatly combed back. I was huddled in the corner, but I was curious about him out of the corner of my eye. I thought, could he also be a child without parents? Was he coming to the orphanage too? Until his index finger pointed at me. That afternoon, the dean found me and said that I was lucky. From then on, I would never have to worry about money anymore. Young Master Tyrone would pay for everything for me. That was the first time I heard his name. I recited it softly in my heart again and again. I thought he cared a lot about me because he would occasionally send me messages asking about my studies and how I was doing. This gave me an illusion. An illusion of being cared for. And this was something I had never felt before. So please forgive me. I regarded him as my spiritual pillar. I swore that I would follow in his footsteps. Just looking at him from a distance would make me happy. I was admitted to the university he attended. After graduating, I entered his company. Even if I was just an insignificant employee, I was willing to do it. I would prepare a birthday gift for him every year, and he would accept them with good temper. And he would say thank you, and my heart sank deeper and deeper. So when I heard that he had died in a car accident, my first reaction was disbelief. How could he die? Every time I made a birthday wish, it was always that he would be safe and happy. How could he die? I didn't believe it. Not until I saw all his relatives in grief did I have to believe it, even though I didn't want to. Tears instantly rolled down my cheeks. I was so overcome with grief that I wished it had been me who died. My wails echoed throughout the morning hall. Tyrone was really dead. My last hope of living was gone with him. Finally, I went to Tyrone's gravestone. Looking at the photo of his young and handsome face on the gravestone, I felt a bit dazed. Suddenly, I thought the plot of land next to his was quite nice. However, when I asked about the price, I almost fainted. Even if I were given another 500 years, I could never earn that much money. In order to raise enough money, I sold all the furniture in the house. If the house had been mine, I would have sold it too. But unfortunately, this house was lent to me by Tyrone. It was a rainy night. I was working overtime at the company. He took pity on me and offered to drive me home. When Tyrone saw the dilapidated neighborhood where I lived, he decisively lent me a house under his name. He also said not to worry too much about it and just consider it as helping an employee. If I really felt bad about it, I could just work harder for the company. I'll always remember Tyrone's smile that night. However, the money from selling the furniture was still not enough. I lay in bed for 2 days but still couldn't think of a way to get more money. It wasn't until Lucas called me, but he gave me an idea. So I asked, "Could you lend me some money?" "Sure, no problem at all. But I have a condition. You'll sleep with me." But he gave me an idea. So I asked, "Could you lend me some money?" "Sure, no problem at all. But I have a condition. You'll sleep with me for 1 night." I was silent for 5 seconds. "Okay, but I need 500,000 yuan. Money is just a number to me." "So you've promised it yourself? There's no chance to go back on your word?" Lucas was still shouting on the other end. I hung up the phone without hesitation. That night, I walked into a hotel with Lucas. I lay calmly on the big bed. Lucas walked towards me while taking off his clothes. "What do you need so much money for?" "To buy a burial plot," I said calmly. Lucas was puzzled. "Why buy a burial plot? Are you crazy?" I propped myself up and looked at him, a smile widening on my lips. "No, it's just that the burial plots are too expensive. I'll spend more money after I die than when I'm alive." I don't know if Lucas was scared by my terrifying smile. He quickly put on his pants and then threw his bank card at me. "Here's the money. Go to the hospital and get treated quickly." I took the money and laughed out loud. Finally, I could buy the burial plot next to Tyrone's. That night, I lay in the bathtub, feeling the approach of death. My blood dyed the clear water red. Vaguely, I saw Tyrone's figure. But it disappeared the next second. Finally, I was buried next to Tyrone as I wished. Tyrone had a dream. He dreamed of May. It was the first time he had dreamed of her since he went abroad. She was so far away yet so close to him. The two of them just stared at each other from a distance. Neither of them spoke first. Finally, Tyrone took a step forward. "May." But the next second, thick fog rose everywhere, and Tyrone could no longer see May's figure. Tyrone could only desperately chase after her, searching for her. He shouted eagerly like a lost child, but no one came to take him away. "Don't go." Tyrone shouted this out loud, and the next second, he woke up from the dream. His forehead was covered with sweat, and his heart was pounding so hard that it seemed about to burst out of his chest. Suddenly, he had an uneasy feeling. This feeling made him feel as if he was sinking into the deep sea, and he was filled with panic both physically and mentally. So without thinking, he called Lucas. "Hello? Where's May?" Tyrone paused and then said, "I'm willing to beg you if you tell me." Lucas was silent for a moment on the other end, and then he gave an address. "Wait for me there. Let me see your sincerity in begging." Tyrone had never been so humble before. He and Lucas looked into each other's eyes. Finally, he was defeated under Lucas's gaze. He slowly knelt down in front of Lucas. His voice was extremely mournful. "Please, tell me where she is." Lucas started laughing again. He only stopped when he was too tired to laugh anymore. He looked down at Tyrone from above. "I really don't understand why May liked you. What about you is so attractive to her? Go and have a look at the burial plot you arranged for yourself back then." After saying that, Lucas opened the door and left without looking back. Tyrone was struck as if by lightning and froze on the spot. It was a long time before he moved again. It was pouring rain outside without his notice. The rain pattered on Tyrone's car window, like playing a dirge. Tyrone had almost forgotten that he had a burial plot. So it took him a while to find the place. He stood unsteadily in front of his gravestone. Suddenly, he had a strange feeling. A living person looking at his own gravestone, and there was even his photo on it. For a moment, Tyrone didn't understand why Lucas had asked him to come here. Until he saw the gravestone next to his out of the corner of his eye. The grave of May, just these simple 4 words. There wasn't a single photo on the gravestone. But Tyrone knew the reason. It was because May never took selfies. She had once said that she didn't like herself. Tyrone fell to the ground as if struck by lightning. Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. But clearly in his mind, he could hear May's wails for him back then. They were so sad and so desperate. Tyrone couldn't believe it. He thought that Lucas was lying to him. Just because Lucas couldn't get May's affection, he hated him. He was taking revenge on him. But at the same time, another thought told him very clearly that it was all true. May had died because of his one lie. Tyrone suddenly got up. He roared like a fierce ghost. It's not true. It can't not be true. Tyrone ran out of the cemetery like a madman. Tyrone went crazy. This was the result of diagnoses by numerous psychiatrists. Sometimes he laughed happily, and sometimes he cried sadly. But most of the time, he was talking to himself. As if there was someone with him. Don't be angry. I'll let you play with all these, okay? You don't want to eat oranges. What do you want to eat then? I'll ask them to buy it for you. Why don't you talk? Please talk to me, okay? Doctors were at a loss about Tyrone's situation. But Tyrone was completely unaware of it. So just like when the news of his return to the country spread, the news of his going crazy also became a hot topic on the internet. When Lucas got the newspaper about Tyrone going crazy, unusually, he didn't laugh. Instead, he was silent for a long time. He could still vaguely remember the scene when he first met May. It was the beginning of freshman year. May was walking towards him from a distance. At that moment, all his attention was drawn to her. That was the first time he believed in the term love at first sight. But May had someone she liked in her heart, so she rejected Lucas's confessions more than once. Lucas was sad and also felt unwilling at the same time. Until Tyrone passed away, he thought his chance had come. But he didn't expect that the last time he saw May would be in the morgue. The hospital called him, saying that she had very few contacts in her address book, and some couldn't even be reached. Only Lucas answered the call, and they hoped he could come to claim the body. Lucas went. So when he received a call from the cemetery asking when May's urn would be delivered, he understood everything. It turned out that May needed so much money just to buy the burial plot next to Tyrone's. Lucas finally buried her there as she wished. The last time Lucas went there, he asked, May, was it worth it? No one answered him. Finally, the wind carried this question far away.